Peace, everybody. I have Asia One with me right now, and there's a question that I've always wanted to ask you that kind of came up in my mind.
Okay.
How did you first get the name Asia One? And if you can give me a year to that though too as well.
Sure. So I got the name Asia One from my boy Voice in Denver. Back in '91 when I opened up a hip hop shop, it was a cool little spot. It was called La Casa del Funk.
Okay.
And it was like a hip hop shop, but it was also just a really cool, like, little eclectic spot because, you know, at that point you got hip hop, you have house, which is kind of like our club music as well, and then you have, like, you know, you have reggae, you have dance hall, right? So that's kind of like those were the musics that were front and center, I think, in the culture at that point. Of course, hip hop was like, that was the boom bap kind of feeling and vibe. And anyway, so I graduated high school in 1989, class of '89, Manual High School in Denver, Colorado. And then, yeah, and I went, so I decided to go to art school afterwards at community college, right? So I was I was an artist already, loved to draw, you know, I was into sculpting. I was learned how to do, I took metal shop and like in high school as well, so I knew how to like weld, and you know, I was like homegirl in Flashdance basically.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, but so I was going to college and thinking like maybe I was going to be like a furniture designer or builder, because that's kind of what my emphasis was at that point. Anyway, so I opened up this shop because I honestly, like, I wanted to open up a spot where people could go to and connect and create community. I think that was already part of my thought process back then. So, you know, it wasn't that hard because rent back then wasn't very expensive. This shop, the rent was $275. I think it was either $200 or $275 a month. I'll never forget. It was a big spot. 2 rooms, big spot, huge, you know, it was a warehouse looking type of spot, so huge ceilings. So anyway, when I was in there, you know, when I first started, and my thing was that, so a couple of things were happening that allowed me to procure things for the shop, right? Because Denver's kind of like, Denver's sort of, I don't want to say it's middle of the road. It's not really Midwest, but it's almost Midwest. It's almost like the beginning. It's actually considered the West still, but you're trekking after that, you're trekking into the Midwest, right? So, you know, we weren't, like, our experience, you know, you weren't East Coast, you weren't West Coast. You had sort of a blend of that there. And as far as what we were exposed to music-wise, fashion-wise, and things like that. A couple things were happening. So you have the New Music Seminar in New York, right? Which was like the place to go if you were into, I mean, they covered a lot of genres of music, but we were only into like hip hop, right, and rap music. So I would go to that, and there was just parties. You're talking about everybody was there, and at that point in time, graffiti artists were beginning to branch off and do their own lines of clothing, and not just graffiti artists. Also, there were other lines like 555 Soul, right? There were cut and sew lines, and so you had this like emergence of streetwear for hip hop that was, you know, not this. It wasn't like the Tommy Hilfiger stuff. This wasn't like the polo stuff. So you had a mishmash because you had people that liked that and rocked that, but then you had like a lot of underground T-shirt lines, right?
Philly's Blunt.
Yeah, Philly Blunt. That was
Art.
actually Futura, Stash, and Gerb, and so these are like, you know, legendary graffiti heads.
Right.
And yes, you have Con Art, which was Stash is from Guns N' Roses' brother, and, you know, well-known artist too as well. So and then you had, like I said, you had stuff coming out of New York, and you had stuff coming out of LA, and some areas in between too. LA, you had Fat Cap, Hex's line.
Oh yeah.
He had the hip hop shop, you know, out here in LA, and so I would go to New York, and I remember, I'll never forget when I went to Camilla's spot, 555 Souls on 151 Ludlow. I'll go over there, and I would. I remember I met her. I went in her shop. She was sewing up stuff for De La Soul. I kid you not. Just right then and there, she was sewing up stuff for them. Sewing up. She used to make a variation of we used to call them the sock hats, the tie hats.
The Fushnikins wore that a lot too.
Yeah, everybody was into that. Those used to sell out. Those were the bomb, especially the 555 Soul ones.
Yes.
Because her fabrics were always stripes, and she would mishmash the stripes and the colors together, and then they were reversible. You know, like I think those people could bring those back. They'd be popular again.
Yeah,
especially
they would.
because the brothers back then, everybody had dreads, the really skinny twig kind of dreads. You know.
Yeah.
So that was popular, and then again, and then in San Diego, there was another show that developed called the 432F show, right?
Oh, okay.
So these were two shows that were happening. The 432F was an underground show as well that a lot of the hip hop lines would be at as well. And so there was a much larger show called the ASR, Action Sports Retail, which is all the skate and the surf stuff, which is, you know, was already big. But this niche kind of hip hop lines coming out from hip hop heads, a lot of graffiti artists, like I said, were designing and having their lines. So I would procure from both of these places, and they were experiences, right? There was clubs, there was parties, you would hang out, you get to know people. So I got to know a lot of these legendary folks from that perspective. We also had graffiti magazines. There was there was On the Go. There was Phase 2 had one as well.
IG Times.
IG Times. I mean, and these were, you would literally call them and order them. You know what I mean? It was so exciting. And there was another really good one. There was a bunch of them, but you know, we had those as well. And we also we became a hub for DMC. So DMC had started, right? And it's dance music. I can't remember what the C
Dance
stood
Music
for.
Seminar?
DMC.
Oh, DMC.
So maybe it's convention or conference, but essentially what they would do is they had, you know, they had white label music. They had the kind of the underground 12 inches, the singles, and you could join their club. It was like a record club. And then if you were a DJ, you got the newest vinyl, what have you. And so we became an outlet for them. And because of that, they gave us a mixer. And they were also one of the first little, like, you know, 2-channel basic mixers. I mean, so that's what it was. And we had that. We had some, Pair Techniques. And it was a really cool spot. So I'd be in there, and different heads would come in and they would just trip out, you know, kind of like how this spot we have now, where they walk by and they'd be like, yo, what is this?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what, you know? And it was in a part of town that was pretty much gang neutral. And so anybody could go over there without feeling like, you know, that they couldn't be there, so to speak, or they were in danger. So that was really dope. So I got to meet people from different sides of town that I was from. And 3 dudes used to come regularly, and I got really tight with them. One's name was Voice, one's name was Fiends, and another name was Mars. They eventually became a crew called the Lords of Finesse that was started by Quickstep.
Quickstep?
Yeah. So, and that little story is a progression as well. But again, my name came before that, you know, before the Lords of Finesse, all that, when they would be hanging on the crew. They were all graffiti writers and b-boys, right? And I was just like enamored with them. They were so dope. They just, their personas were like, you know, that classic b-boy persona, that they maintained that. And there wasn't really a lot of that in Denver or at that stage, right? So we became like a little family. And, you know, I started writing graffiti. I was really into it, or I wanted to be into it. So I was just like, you know, I was like a toy, figuring it out.
Did you have a name before that at the time?
I didn't. I was writing a bunch of dumb stuff. Like, I don't even want to get into that. But the point is, it was too long. You know, you don't, before you know, you're writing stuff that doesn't make sense. It's too long, you know. But he's like, no, you know what? You should write Asia. I was like, and he said, because you're Chinese. I'm half Chinese. A lot of people don't know my dad's from China. And he said because Dondi used to write Asian. He said he's the most stylistic writer ever to be, right? And so, you know, he said, yeah, Dondi used to write do these little Asia pieces on the cabooses of the trains now and then. You know, it wasn't his main piece. It was just like an extra little thing he did, you know, when he was painting. So anyway, I started writing Asia. People started calling me Asia. And then when I started breaking, it just, you know, became my name. You know, and then I added a one after it because they go, you gotta claim it, like you are the one. You are, you know, the first Asia, so to speak. You know, even though Donnie would have technically been the first Asia, but I became Asia 1, right? So that's a little bit about my name history, and I just been it ever since.
That's interesting because I met Jason Green when I lived in Fresno. And at the time, his name was Jason Green. He said he wanted to become an MC, so he started calling himself Planet Asia.
That's dope.
And he was in a crew called Schoolyard. Before that, it was called Nubian X.
Nice.
This is 80, 88, 89. There were Nubian X, brand Nubians.
Yeah.
You know,
that was
by the
the
time
movement.
right.
Yeah.
And then after that, he said he just went by Asia. And he wanted just to be called Asia. And then I guess when he started making more albums, when he got down with Cali Asians, he called himself Planet Asia.
Right. Yeah, I have one funny story about him. Yeah, we were always cool. You know, we would see each other, and I had a lot of respect for him because he's a dope MC. And he performed in Summit before. We had Cali Agents. We had him and Rasco. I think that was 2000.
Yeah.
2000 or 2001. And that was dope. And anyway, it was funny. This was years and years later. I had a promoter reach out to me to book me, right? And you know, I was in the process of doing this deal with this promoter, and it finally occurred to me that they thought I was Planet Asia. I told him, it was like we were cracking up. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. One more last question. We can keep this short.
Okay.
Do you remember the first time me and you ever met? Because I do.
This is my recollection. You can obviously correct me.
Okay.
I think I met you in LA.
Yes.
And I think you came out and it was like you in Vietnam. But
Yes.
I could be wrong, right? And I think, I don't remember it was for the summit or
No,
what jam it was. It was like, maybe it's Radiotron, maybe it was just, I don't know. I don't exactly remember where we were at, but I just remember, I believe it was you and Nam. And wait, Flexum maybe even too, right? And
Turtle Wax.
Turtle Wax. Okay. So, you know, that's kind of like my thought process when I think about you and like when I very first started seeing you and started connecting.
And what was interesting, I interviewed you outside and you was like, yo, this is Asia 1. We're in East LA. We're at an event called Turtle Wax.
Turtle Wax. Dang, and I don't remember that event at all, but that's
yes,
funny. Okay.
That's the one that Flexum won. He was in the finals.
Right. It was, see, yes.
And then after that, me and you and Easy Rock, we went to Denny's with Little Rock, and you had the T-shirt, and you was like, I'm gonna do a little go down for Mikey Ice.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And you started breaking at Denny's.
We were at Denny's. I totally remember that. Yes. Yeah, I remember when we went to Denny's. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's true. You were already filming even back then.
Even back then,
Yeah.
that was like 96.
That's cool.
And
That's dope.
of course, I seen you with the Zulu medallion. I got in Zulu in 94. By 95, I started my own chapter, which is called the North Star.
Right, North Star Zulus. Yeah,
Right, so that's my chapter.
That's dope.
Right, so we decided to put at that time they had a chapter in Sacramento called the Alien chapter because of TC Islam.
TC Islam,
So
yeah.
we decided to combine my chapter with his, and we called it the North Star.
Wow. I love those days, brother. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we had our chapters. That's probably why we were politicking like the way we were.
That was the main reason why,
we had
like,
SD
yeah.
Zulu ones in San Diego, and you know that was our chapter, and we were all very active, and the West Coast was very active, you know, with Zulu Nation and organizing, and it was a beautiful time.
You guys' chapter back then was amazing, though. I'm not gonna lie. I remember.
Chapter was the truth, yo.
I was blown away.
We were the first chapter to have a Zulu. We started Zulu Youth.
Frankie
you
Flay
know?
was a part of that, right?
No, he wasn't a Zulu Youth.
He wasn't. He said he was.
Really?
And the other dude, he was real skinny though. I don't forgot his
So
name.
it wasn't Frankie Flay, it was Eddie Styles.
Okay.
Because Frankie wasn't, you know, he would have been too old to be in Zulu Youth. You know what I mean? Zulu Youth was like, they were teenagers. They were like 13 to 16,
Right.
you know? Yeah, Eddie Styles. It was Eddie, it was Jorge. I'm trying to remember. It wasn't a lot of them. There was like, I don't know, maybe
It was like a chubby dude. Who was the chubby dude?
There was a chubby dude. Are you outie? Marlo. See you later, brother.
Bye.
Appreciate you, Bill.
I forgot his name. He was a cholo, like big chubby dude. He had the ski goggles, and I asked him.
Oh,
He's like, "Yeah, I'm in
dang.
Zulu Youth."
Right.
Another dude named Brad. Used to call him Riddles.
Riddles. No, there probably was more than I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Jorge passed away. Rest in peace. He was, but he had cancer back then too. He was a special dude. He was an MC, and he was also an activist. And God bless his soul. But but Eddie was the one that stayed. He was the one we kind of was like, wow, that dude was he's gonna continue with this on some way somehow. You know what I mean? But yeah, our chapter was really active. We had at least 40, 45 people in our chapter.
It was so deep.
It was me and J Love and Physics started it. And Physics was from Brooklyn. He was a cat from Brooklyn. He was a graffiti artist, and he moved to the West Coast, and he set up in San Diego. And because San Diego, people don't really realize if they don't remember from back then. You remember San Diego was the truth. It was like an underground mecca for hip hop. There was so much. I mean, on the graffiti level, all these old school writers, Quasar and them. Persuade is not. Well, he wasn't old school back then, but he's from there. Saki, Zard. I'm not naming a bunch of them. Zodak and Severe from top to bottom. They were, from National City,
right.
Chula Vista, and obviously Tribal Streetwear, and all of those artists that Tribal was using. Those were local artists,
Wasn't that behind
Press One, the one that did all the early
Yes.
Summit flyers? I mean, if you look at that artwork,
It was amazing.
You don't see people doing that kind of stuff anymore. So it was a beautiful place to be. It was that's why I decided to move there. I was like, when you realize you outgrew your city, you're like, I gotta go. I can't be who I really want to be out here.
That's why I left Madeira.
Sometimes you have to go. You really do, and I knew I had to go, and that's when I moved. I moved. I'll never forget. It was January 4th, 1994, and that's when me and one of my best friends moved to San Diego.
Okay. I wanted to share a story with you. When I heard there was an event, I think it was at the Red Line Hotel called Winter Wars. So I show up.
Winter Wars, yeah.
The crew that I was in, it was called Lunacy Tribe, and they said that we're going to San Diego. I drove from Madeira straight to San Diego, and they said we're going to battle the Delivery Boys.
The Delivery Boys, right.
I didn't even know Cross was in that crew.
Right.
So
Him and this other cat, Donnie. I think it was just them two. I don't know if there was more than them.
Who else was in it? Rainin. Rainin was a Delivery
He
Boys.
was?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kid Rainin was in
Dope.
Delivery Boys. So
That's funny.
Right, so I get out there and I'm doing my footwork and I'm going side to side, top rock fresh, and somebody comes out, they have a beret, some windbreakers, and some clean Pumas on the back of their t-shirt that said B-Boy Alliance.
Oh yeah.
And they came over to me, they
Alliance.
was like, bro, you got that real B-Boy style.
Yeah.
And that was my
Alliance
first
dope.
Yes, and that was my first introduction to San Diego crews was B-Boy Alliance.
Yeah, they all had that classic style.
Yes.
They did. They were sick. I mean, you have E-Swift. E-Swift was like
Oh, so cool.
that cat. I wish there was more footage of him.
I know.
He was sick with it. Like his top rock.
So fast. So fast.
Yeah, everything. But that was kind of it. You talked to Grums about that. When you think about it, it's like it was really about like a lot about when you think about breaking and you think about like what we got from New York. We got this blueprint. It's fast. It's about precision and speed and control.
Yes.
It wasn't about breaking slow. It wasn't about it was like you were moving as fast as you could handle to the music, staying in the pocket. Boom, 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 not trying to misstep at all. Like the people, even if you look at footage of Little Lep, rest in peace, a lot of footage came out, resurfaced after he passed, and you look at him and that's the blueprint right there. You're talking about somebody who never messed up. Every time you see him do what he's doing, it's like he's like
Right.
in it. And that's what people strove to do back there. If you could do that, you were really good.
Little Lep was a huge inspiration for me. I learned how to do swipes because I watched him when he first came out after Crazy Legs. Okay, so like you said, the
Street.
doubles, then
Right,
he did the singles.
Yeah.
I remember in junior high school, like I'm in the 7th grade and I learned how to do swipes.
Yeah. No, I get it. For me, it was I used to watch that part with Buck 4 and Kuriaki where they did the swipe to the W.
Oh,
I think
yes.
it was like a Bronco. It was some kind of swipe Bronco to a W combination.
Yes,
I
the
literally
Bronco.
got that. Like I did it until I got it. I was like, used to rewind that and watch it, and yeah.
That's
so,
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's been
Asia.
good.
Thank you for your time.
brother.
Any shouts out you want to give? Like well, actually, do you have
Yeah.
any inspiring words that you'd like to give to the B-girl community today?
Oh man. Yeah, what can I say, man? I mean, I know a lot of people emphasize like, man, I gotta get good and I gotta go try to enter these competitions and win and do all that. And that's dope, but I would like to see a lot more action in the ciphers. I would like to see it get back to crews and representing with your crew, and more emphasis being put on crews and less emphasis put on individuals, because I think that's like what hip hop's about, and that's how we got how we are, is because we became part of these crews and we started crews and we got to meet people and connect with people and learn other cultures and everything. And I think that that's still happening on an individual level, but I would love to see more crews again and more people teaching people and mentoring and passing things down is super important for all these different generations, and sisters getting each other's support, understand, give the next sister some shine, maybe on your gram, shout some other people out other than just yourself. Because hip hop is about giving people props, that deserve it.
That's why I do it.
Yeah, like don't. It's even biblical. It's like don't withhold something from someone when they deserve to have it. You know what I mean? And so I think about that, like no easy props. Like, if somebody deserving to get some shine out there, give them some shine. Let other people know who's in your city.
It doesn't take anything away from you.
Nah, that's what it used to be. You never gave yourself props, right? So
No.
it's like everything. It's about other people talking about you. So. On that note, yeah, I wanna talk about a couple things. One is that I was really inspired watching some of these new production companies coming out that are really bringing forth some of this early history of hip hop, especially when it comes to there's a really good one that is about Ness and the Mighty Zulu Kings. It's coming out from a company called I think it's called Real Productions, REEL Productions, and it's unsung. It might be like Real Unsung Productions, and it's on Fox Soul, which is a new kind of hybrid channel, and it's called You Can't Erase Me.